All right, let's go. All right, Tim, I'm telling you, I'm going to be so excited about the Leafs this year.
Yeah, you like the signings?
I like the signings. I like this GM. Picked up the guys I would have picked up.
Right, so they picked up Ryan Reeves, toughest guy in the league, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Max Domi.
Boy, he'll be playing just like he did when he first came out of London. And I'll tell you one thing. That is going to be a tough team. Nobody will push. Nobody will come in choking their rookies. And
well, you said that if you were traveling, you'd sign Wayne Simmons and have total payback.
I would have Wayne Simmons. I don't know why he won't sign him and go into Florida and say, okay, you're tough guys. Let's see how tough you are now. Oh, boy, they're going to have a tough team.
Well, in Ottawa, they signed that Zach McEwen. He's a heavyweight.
That'll be – don't miss that game, folks. That'll be the game.
You and I were joking. We said, they'll probably go at it first game, and the crowd will go bananas, and then between periods, they'll say, isn't that awful?
Let's get back to hockey. And they don't even say hockey right. Hockey.
Yeah.
Hockey.
Yeah, they'll be
Let's get back to playing hockey.
Yeah.
Sensible game.
Except for the crowd going bananas.
The crowd's going, not the people that pay. Anyhow, I am so excited about the Leafs this year. That's all they needed. I wish they'd pick up one stud defenseman, but there's I don't know. I don't think there's any for sale.
Yeah. Well, they might be able to trade somebody. Nylander, they might trade him.
We'll see. But anyhow, I'm excited about the Leafs, and they'll have a good feel about them, believe me.
So Dad, Cindy's not here. She's taking a day off, and we'd like to thank our sponsors, Spreads.ca. They're a Canadian-owned online casino and sportsbook, and if you sign up now and use the promo GRAPES, they'll match your deposit up to $250. You get 10 spins on the big wheel for some big dough, and your first sports bet, they'll spot you $25.
We're up to about 50,000.
Yeah, we get we've got lots of downloads. We're at well over 5 million downloads since we started, which is pretty good. But it's a little bit quiet right now, Dad, in the sports world. The Jays got no. That was funny, the other day. They had no hitter against them with 3 pitchers in Detroit.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a no-hitter going on.
Right, so the guy's got a no-hitter, they pull him. They got another guy in there, he had a no-hitter going, they pulled him, and then the guy got to, I don't know if he would get to save or not, but I've never seen that before.
I never heard of that before.
Yeah, so nobody gets credit for a no-hitter.
I think the guy that, I don't know. Who
Nobody would, right? We get to save. I think the score was 2-1, so you probably get a save at the end. But we're going to do something that we've done occasionally. We were going to run an old Grapevine show, and one of your favorites.
We're going to talk about George Chuvalo. He was my hero when I was growing up. And when I see people going nuts at a hockey game, I look at the people. But I used to go. I was an absolute fan growing up, and I tell you, George Chuvalo was my hero.
He was the Canadian heavyweight champion.
I'm gonna read his record, okay?
Yep.
Okay, I got it written down. George Chuvalo, he's from Toronto, never knocked down in 93 fights.
Right.
And listen to the guys he fought. He fought Ali twice. He fought Smoking Joe Frazier, and he fought George Foreman, and never knocked down.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't go down. He was tough. Fought Ali twice, and like I said. And after his second fight, he said George was the toughest guy he ever fought. And he fought a lot of tough guys. He was ranked number 3 in the heavyweight division in 1965. And that was the glorious days
Well, you think of all those guys back then. You think of, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Ali, even like some of the guys that, people still don't remember.
He had 94 fights. He was 74 wins. 18 losses, 63 knockouts, Tim. That's pretty good.
63 knockouts.
63 knockouts. Every time you went, he knocked a guy out. 2 draws, and he'd never been knocked down. That's what he was most proud of, He'd never been knocked down.
Yeah, and we had him on the Grapevine show. We had him on the Grapevine show a few times, and it's kind of sad, Dad, that the Canadian people don't really remember him too much anymore.
Well, anyhow, Rose and I we used to take off Saturday afternoons. Used to work for the public utilities. We drive up my night. It was a beauty. It was light blue.
1955 what?
1955 Ford Fairlane, and it was light blue. And light blue inside. Oh, it was a gorgeous car. And we drove up to Highway 2.
Yeah, there was no 401 back then.
There was no 401 back in those days. It was just being built. And we drove through all these little towns. And we get there. And, you know what I remember about this is that I parked the car. And I said to the guy parking the car, I said, gee, that guy, he won't be able to get out. He's, oh, no, he'll be at the fight too. And all that. He didn't care.
You got up there early, right?
Eh?
You got up there. You got to Toronto early, way before.
Yeah, he got there early, but then there was a car, and I parked this guy in, and I said, "This guy's going to be metal mad." No, he's going to fight too. He'll be going out at the same time. He didn't care. The guy didn't care. He'd be gone anyhow. And anyhow, after the fights, I go outside, and there's the guy waiting for me. He'd been waiting all this time. Didn't damage my car or anything. And anyhow, to make a long story short, I got in a big argument with him, and all the way home.
I can't believe Mom went up to see a fight.
She went up to St. George's under the clock. I think she just went for the dinner.
Yeah, the Chinese restaurant.
And I remember when he fought Alex Minoff. It was unbelievable. He fought Alex Minoff. He knocked him right out of the ring. The manager, his general manager, must have told him, "It's lucky you're losing anyhow. You might as well go out." And he knocked him right out of the ring.
Yeah, he wanted a split decision, so it was a close fight.
Oh, he pushed him back in. He knocked him from hip pillar to post. And Alex Minoff was ranked back then too. That's why we're all excited. You couldn't get a ticket. The Maple Leaf Gardens was absolutely jammed. I remember a guy jumping off the top. He was as excited as me. I remember I had Rose. I picked her up and I was dancing with. Anyhow, I used to have, and boy, George Chuvalo was the hero of heroes back in the 60s.
Yeah. So this was early on in the Grapevine shows, early 80s, and I think at the time this was the most excited you were interviewing somebody.
Oh, I was. George Chuvalo, he was the greatest.
Tonight in the Grapevine, we have my favorite, George Chuvalo, the champ himself. I love him. Muhammad Ali said he was the toughest guy he ever fought. Hurt his hand on him. Are you ready, Blue? You're tough just like him. Let's see George on the Grapevine. Come on. Looking fun here. Yeah. What is this? Going to be my favorite show. Muhammad Ali hurt his hands, and I'll tell you a story about it. Dick Irvin, you know, Hockey Night in Canada, great guy. He was, after the Muhammad Ali fight, remember George went 15 rounds with him. One of the greatest fights of all time. George was there. Even though he called George the washerwoman, George was there. Anyhow, Dick Irvin walks into the lobby, and he sees Muhammad Ali. Now, this is his chance. Muhammad Ali runs up. Muhammad, shake hands, you know. He's, oh, I can't. He says, I went 15 rounds with that Canadian. I'll tell you, he sure got a hard head. I can't hold, my hands are killing me. But anyhow, that's how tough he was. And I'm telling you, we've got a blue movie on George Chuvalo. Like I said, this is going to be my favorite show. I just love the guy. We used to go around, my wife and I went all over. He doesn't know I was his biggest fan. We've got blue movies of him. Blue, as usual's got it. Roll the blue movie of the champ himself, George Chuvalo.
In the world of professional sport, there is no place more demanding and less forgiving than the ring. George Chuvalo made his living here. From 1956 until 1977, he was one of the world's very best. A man who became legendary by virtue of his ability to take a punch. His style was unmistakable, always moving forward in that relentless, lumbering manner, hands held high, absorbing 5, 6, even more punches in order to land just one. That usually being a left hook. A devastating shot that gave George one of the best knockout records in the sport. In 94 bouts, Chuvalo decked over 60 opponents, and in a period from 1966 to 1970, he won on KOs in 27 out of 30 fights. Chuvalo took out some class fighters. Hard, tough men like Eduardo Corletti, Doug Jones, and Jerry Quarry. But he lost some fights that could have been wins. Decisioned in heartbreakers to ex-champ Floyd Patterson, WBA champ Ernie Terrell, and a 10-round decision to Oscar Bonavena. In 1966, George met Muhammad Ali for the heavyweight championship of the world. Ali, then at his peak, won a 15-round decision, but he called George the toughest man I've ever met. A statement backed up by the fact that in 21 years of prize fighting, George was never knocked down. The glory of the championship eluded him, but as a contender, no one was more exciting or more noble than George Chuvalo.
And in this corner, at 200 and some pounds, from Toronto, Ontario, George Chuvalo. Put her there, pal. Good. How's George Mitt?
Can I make a hockey player?
Yeah, you be a hockey player. You could be my enforcer. Guy, okay, now we're getting right into Ali. Everybody, I bet you get asked that all the time. Was he the toughest guy you ever fought?
No, there's a difference between toughest and the best sometimes. You can be the best and the toughest, but you can also be the best. So it all depends what you mean by toughest. The toughest fight or the toughest individual, I mean, I would say one of the toughest fights I've ever been in would be the Floyd Patterson fight. Very grueling match. The tide would swing back and forth. Very tough fight. But as an individual, I wouldn't say it was as tough, say, as Joe Frazier or some other fellas I fought. But as far as the fight was concerned, that particular night, it was a very tough fight.
Yeah, Ali.
Because it's the pace. I mean, you can be. Somebody could kick the daylights out of you kick the daylights out of somebody else, but when you have an evenly fought fight and the tide keeps switching back and forth and you got to pick up and go, you got you a little bit, then you got to come back, you take the lead and it swings back and forth and you're fighting
fight.
to the finish.
Patterson fight, you should have had that fight.
I thought I won it, but it was a very close fight. I lost by 1 round, I think.
Yeah. I see Ali on television now. It saddens me to see him like he is. It's tough to see him like that, I'll tell you now. You see the movie Rocky and things like that, and you see guys pound blood and stuff like that. What do you do when you go to a movie like that and you see that? Do you laugh or what?
Well, sometimes boxing is like that. When you're talking about pow and you blow up and so on.
Yeah, but then they come back, and there's blood and 2 tons of blood all over the place. I mean,
well, yeah, and sometimes it squirts like the Raging Bull squirts from here to the wall.
Yeah.
Actually, well, that's what the people want to see, I guess. That's what they want to see, but that isn't necessarily a reality all the time. That's what they want to see.
When you think of a fighter, I like the fighters and that. What do you think the main ingredient to be a good boxer fighter? What do you think is the main thing?
Attitude, discipline. You can have all the talent in the world. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have that, or they talk about, if you don't have heart, where's heart? There's a heart here, but heart's really in your head.
It's true.
I'm going to win. If I don't care what he hits me, I'm going to come right back. That's where your heart is. It's right in your head. Your attitude, it's all in here. It's your mind that tells you the desire to be somebody, the desire to keep going when like the old saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and that really applies in boxing. I mean, you can see fights change. One blow can change a fight. You see the fighter's attitude change. Hey, I don't want to get hit with that again.
All of a sudden,
the other guy say, "Oh, he hit me. I want to hit him 5 times right back."
Yeah.
There's a difference in attitude. That's attitude.
Some guys, when they get hit, they come back harder.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, that's the right attitude. But a lot of guys will go for cover. They'll go for shelter.
All of a sudden, you see a guy, he's great. All of a sudden, he gets popped once. That's it.
So how many front runners have you seen like that?
Front runners.
Beautiful. Till they get hit, all of a sudden you see the whole complexion of the fight change, night and day.
I told you this story, but I was your biggest fan. I remember back in the 50s, I used to come up here. I saw every one of your fights. I remember the one with Midoff. I'll just tell the story. I'll be quick. You lost the first 8 rounds. In the next 2 rounds, I remember the round. I've never been so excited. You can see I love boxing better than any sport. You knocked Midoff right out of the. Remember that? Tell us that story.
Well, I was June the 20th, 1958. Not bad. Huh? I was 20 years old. It was my first fight. It was the fight that took me into the top 10. I was fighting Alex Mitter from South America. He was a South American champion, and he just recently had beaten Nino Valdez from Cuba.
Big guy.
On one of the Gillette Friday night fights. And anyway, the fight was in Toronto, and apparently he had the lead in the first 8 or 9 rounds. This is the 10th round.
Yeah.
So I remember and my nose appeared to be busted. It wasn't busted, but it appeared to be so. Blood dripping down the face. regular stuff. And we were in close. I remember just dipping he was kind of open. I remember I want to get my right hand in between his guard. I just remember dipping down and slanting my shoulder over so he couldn't see the uppercut coming. I just shot it up, boink, hit him on the chin. He went flying out of the ropes, and I deposited him on the canvas, and his feet were hung over the middle strand. And that Swarovski took the picture. It was the best picture in Canada, the best sports picture in Canada.
Yeah, you were standing over him like that.
And the blood was dripping down.
Oh, beautiful.
Broken nose. Nice.
Oh, I loved it. Listen, I loved it. I was watching. It was. What a fight. I tell you, I'd have loved to have been a fighter. I was a fighter in hockey, but Okay, you ever have a hero? Like, who was your hero boxing?
Well, I don't think I had any one particular. I had a lot of heroes. I used to love Willie Pep. I used to admire the way he fought, the tremendous amount of flexibility, agility. And he did something that a lot of fighters don't do today, except, well, I shouldn't say a lot of fighters. There's a couple around that do it, and one is Aaron Pryor. He probably does it better than anyone else today, and that's create openings. In other words, they throw a punch, bop, bop, the 1-2, and then they don't just stand there, sit back, wait to be countered. He'll weave out to the side and hit you from another angle, which he did so well with Alexei Sagueyo. And his feet took him out. He took a stride to the right, and it weaved out and hit him from another angle. Then weaves back in and hits him from another angle. In other words, once he lands the punches, he doesn't wait to be countered. If you're going to counter him, he won't be where he's supposed to be. He'll move out.
Has that head high too. Yeah. All right. Now, the one question I wanted to ask you and everybody. Remember the second Duran-Leonard fight? Right. Why did Duran quit? He said his belly ached, but why?
Well, I think he just. First of all, that fight, the original fight, the first fight took place, I think, in June, I think, in Montreal. Yeah. And I just think what happened after the fight, he just started partying, running around, started drinking, and doing all overeating and so on. And while he was doing that, the other guy was pining away. The other guy was upset. He had lost the fight. His image had been somewhat tarnished. He went right back into the gym and started to prepare for another fight. So after about 2 or 3 months, they finally decided to have another fight. And the other guy is already in dynamite shape, and this fellow who's already won the fight, feeling super confident and cocky, he starts going training. I don't think he trained with the same intensity, because if you notice the first fight, the difference in the first fight and the second fight in terms of his tenacity or lack of tenacity in New Orleans when he fought the second time, there was quite a disparity. I mean, the first fight he was on him like white on rice, as they say in the gym. He was right on him, and he stuck to him like glue. In the second fight, it was different. Yeah, he didn't have quite the same desire, the same tenacity, and that cost him the fight. And what happened when I say cost him the fight, I think he was just afraid of being embarrassed. He was going to be embarrassed in front of all those people, and he made a split-second decision that was to haunt him for the rest of his life. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's a coward at all. I think he's a man. I don't think he can stand up there and take a beating, but he was embarrassed. So much publicity. He didn't want to lose to this man. But it was a split-second thing, and I think it's something he's going to regret the rest of his life.
Okay, Hagler, he's the best. Why is he the best?
Well, first of all, I hate to say it, but he's in a weak division. He's not. He hasn't fought the same type of people like another idol, which I neglected to mention earlier, along with Willie Pep, Sugar Ray Robinson. And Tony Zale and so on. The toughest middleweights around were in the 40s and the 50s. Yeah. I'm not saying Hagler wouldn't do well with those guys. I'm just saying he's head and shoulders above what is around today in the middleweight division. He's a guy that's extremely dedicated. He's a well-trained fighter. He doesn't have a gram of fat on his body. He's as lean, as mean as you can be.
He's from Boston. I know him well. He was just a friend when he wasn't champion. Then when he became champion, he became a personal friend.
Right. Plus, he has another asset.
It's the old story.
You're smarter than you look.
Yeah, I know. Smarter than I look. What is this, George?
But another thing is going for me. He's a southpaw. So if you're a right-handed fighter, that's fine. You're used to fighting right-handed guys. Once you go southpaw, you know what I mean? You're automatically about a 30% improved fighter, because you're used to fighting right-handed fighters. Yeah. They're not used to fighting you. You know. So if I had to fight a southpaw, so oh my God, it's a southpaw. I'm always used to fighting orthodox style fighters. So then now I have to reverse a lot of things for him.
There's nothing in any sport when two heavyweights get together, championship fight, and just before the fight, you can hear the electricity. But that must have been something with Ali.
Well, the first time I fought him, actually, I was real excited. I had my heartbeat, 5 minutes prior to the fight, was 60.
60? What, he didn't fall asleep like Joe Louis?
Pressure, tension.
Yeah.
But actually, in the resting position, there was 36, but I was pretty good shape. So it jumped up quite a bit 5 minutes prior to the fight.
Well, Grapes, I'll tell you something. Sorry, George, to cut in here, but I want us to play the word association game again tonight, Grapes.
All right.
Now, you know how it works. We mention a word, and the first thing that comes into your mind. You started great.
All right. Joe Frazier.
Jerky rhythm.
What do you mean?
Well, the way he used to fight, I mean, you go over more or less to dip down to almost point knee and then back up.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Complete fighter.
Duran.
Tenacity.
Holmes.
Left jab.
Marciano.
Stamina.
Sugar Ray Robinson.
Style.
Joe Louis.
Combination punch.
George Foreman.
Ponderous.
Sonny Liston, my favorite. He was my favorite. Go ahead.
The Mean Bear.
The Mean Bear, I'll tell you. And you've been a good bear right here, George. Thank you. My favorite show right here. What is that? Kenny Harris, take us home.
Drinks and Blue, Ken and Jimmy, we're thanking you for tuning in.
Well, I know, Dad, that was a great interview, and that was one of you most excited about. And it was funny at the end. You were talking about you were giving them all the guys, Duran and all that. But your favorite was Sonny Liston back then.
Yeah, Sonny Liston was my favorite.
We should talk about that one day. Our theories on Sonny Liston and the Ali fights.
Yeah. Oh boy, they were. But anyhow, George Chuvalo was my favorite, and I used to get so excited driving up to see him fight. I think Rose only came to have the dinner under the St. George's under the clock.